Our guest today is an iconic vocalist, bassist, and songwriter. He's getting ready to release a new Avantasia album. So let's talk with the one and only Tobias Sammet, the guy with more friends in the metal scene. Hey, Toby, it's a pleasure having you here.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here. Nice to be heard and seen, and nice to talk to you.
In these 25 years and 10 studio albums, each record is literally a part of your life, and you are the only witness present at all times, whether in studio or live with Avantasia. When you remember the composition and production of this new album, Here Be Dragons, what is the first frame of memory that comes to your mind?
Well, great joy, great joy. This new album is has been put together with so much joy, and I mean, I always enjoy playing music and writing music, and it's often self-therapy. But this new album, I have a feeling, has been put together with less of a burden, less of a black cloud over my head. I had to get things off my chest with the two previous records, and there was a lot of pressure, and it was a different phase of my life. And I had worked quite a lot for 15 years, and I'd overworked myself. And those two records, I was trying to come to terms with that on the previous records. Now, when those records were done, Paranormal Evening with the Moonflower Society, I was a blank canvas again. I started to just throw myself into the work process of a new album without thinking too much about it and thinking too much about what it should be. And I even abandoned the idea of doing a conceptual album. I thought it may become a conceptual album because I'm very determined to let out what I have in me, and it may all shape in the same direction each song, and it may become like a song cycle, which will be a cohesive piece of art in the end. But that was not the main goal. I was free. I was free to just write individual short stories, write songs. In the beginning, I didn't even think about who was going to sing on the album. I knew, of course, my family members in Avantasia would do it, but I just wrote songs for me, just like writing a solo record or whatever, or an Edguy record, and just sang them with my voice and just enjoyed the process, and then replaced some of my vocals, bummer, by other singers or with other singers. No, no, fortunately, I mean, they did a great job. It was a free process. It was very liberating. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you can hear it. It's a very punchy record. And I think that's also because it's been put together without pressure and without expectations. It's not pretentious at all.
Mhm.
Musicians always say my new record is the best one, but I am correct when I say that. This is correct. I'm right.
Your career is marked by the fact that you're always involved in the production of each work, whether with Edguy or Avantasia. You have had your own home studio, Mystery Hausen, for a long time now, and I imagine it must be a dream come true to have your own laboratory to bring ideas to life. But how does your schedule work as you being your own boss and producer? Do you usually go to the studio every day and work on something, or creativity dictates the pace during the production of a new work?
Well, I'm often sitting here. I'm here right now. That's where I am. It's my little studio. It's not very much tidied up currently, but I hope you can't see that. It's just I'm a very creative. It's a creative chaos. I go here, yeah, every day. It's like that's my work. Sometimes I just go here and listen to the new Magnum album. Or unfortunately, there won't be a new Magnum album anymore. But
Mhm.
that's what I'm doing here. And sometimes I'm just doing making bank wires for hospital invoices or whatever. Not hospital, but doctor. Doing the normal stuff that you do when you're in your office. It's also one of my offices, and but I am here every day, and it's a very creative environment. It's very. I'm writing here. I'm putting music together, and I really. I am creative. My piano is over there in the other room in my office. I have an upright piano, and I'm sitting there quite often, and that's where some of the ideas start. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the studio. This is where I'm working out the ideas, but over there in the other room, a lot of my ideas are given birth to. So I'm creative every day. It's like it's like self-therapy in a way.
And since we're talking about production, it's impossible not to mention the partnership with Sasha Pet, who not only shares the duties of co-producing and mixing Avantasia's albums, but is also the guitarist in the studio and live. In these almost 2 decades of working together, what lessons you learned from him that have helped you evolve as an artist?
I think he thinks outside the box, and I think when I got to work with him for the first time, I think in 2002, when he mixed the, I first worked with him when he recorded Andre Matos for the metal opera. But then I really worked with him when I think in 2002 or 2003, I think, early 2003, he mixed our live album with Ed Guy, Burning Down the Opera. And then he went on to get involved in the production process with Hellfire Club, with Rocket Ride and stuff like that. He thinks outside the box, and he can, I mean, he's very, very known in the heavy metal scene, in the classic power metal scene, so quotation marks power metal, having produced bands like Gamma Ray and Running Wild and Angra and Rhapsody and Camelot and Epica and all these bands. But the funny thing is, his background is not a heavy metal background. He is more into, I would say, 70s rock. Some of it I really don't like. We don't share all our tastes. He has got some weird. I hate Bob Dylan. I don't hate him, but it's not my kind of music. I think it's just like knocking on heaven's door. Yeah, okay, keep on knocking. I never really got too much into it. But maybe I'm too stupid for that. But that's for Sasha. It's like the old blues guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm more into Angus Young and Vivian Campbell and Jake E. Lee. And Jake E. Lee, by the way, is a guitar player that when we recorded with Eric Singer, the Scarecrow record, and Eric Singer had played with Jake E. Lee because Eric Singer and Jake E. Lee had a band together called Badlands. Eric Singer said, like, this guy, if he knew about Sasha, he said that if he knew how great he is, he would become arrogant because Sasha is such a great musician, such a great producer, and such a great guitar player. He sounds like Jake E. Lee. And Jake E. Lee is my favorite Ozzy Osbourne guitarist. Has always been my favorite Ozzy Osbourne guitarist. Sorry, Zach Wilde, Brad Gillis, you amazing artists, amazing guitarists, and of course Randy Rhoads, God rest his soul. I really love Jake E. Lee's playing, and Sasha is very similar to him. So he has brought some different spin to the heavy metal way of thinking. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So I learned a lot from Sasha. I mean, Sasha, you can learn things about music, but even if you just want to repair your phone or something, you can learn a lot from Sasha because he's a little bit like Gyro Goose. Sasha can do everything. Sasha is absolutely fantastic. And he's a very, very lovely person. One of my best friends. Maybe he is my best friend.
Lovely to hear.
Maybe. Sasha, if you see that.
When the metal opera came out, it was incredible to see some of the greatest artists of the power metal scene together in something totally unexpected at the time. And that became the essence of Avantasia, always mixing classic names with the new generation. For this new work, at the same time that we have singers like Roy Khan returning, we also have Adrienne Cohen and Kenny Leckremo for the first time. Mm-hmm. As the coach of this squad, does it still move you to listen when a singer sends you the audio files for a new song, be it a familiar voice or a new Avantasian?
Absolutely, because that's when you get the fine tuning for. So you have a great song. At least that's what I believe. When I finish a song, I think it's a great song. It works with my vocals on there. I was singing all those songs myself once for this new record. They were all done with me in mind and me singing them and just enjoying to sing them. But then, of course, when you replace some of those vocals with a performance of somebody else, who, of course, I hope will contribute something that was not there before and make the song more precious and better. Better in art is always a difficult term, but when you have somebody involved, or when somebody gets involved to put his final touches on it with his voice, it will give the song its final shape, and then it is what it is. So of course you're always excited. And to me, it's still always like Christmas. It's like opening a Christmas present when you get a performance. Sometimes I'm in the same room and I see how the magic happens, or I hear how the magic happens. As for example, when we worked on Bring On the Night and Bob Catley was singing it, and we were in Hamburg in the studio, Chef Rock studio. Bob knew the song was written with him in mind. It was very obviously a homage or tribute to the late Tony Clarkin and Magnum. And it was just a reflection of my love for Magnum. And it was a way of dealing with the loss of Tony and with a realization that Magnum would be no more, which was tough for me. The song Bring On the Night, it came together one night. I was watching football, Netherlands versus Turkey. And I was watching football, and usually nothing gets me up from my cozy armchair when I'm watching football. Now I was sitting there, and all of a sudden the piano was saying, like, come and play me. I mean, it didn't literally say that, but I felt drawn towards the piano. And this is no bullshit story. This is God's honest truth. I went there, played the piano, and within 5 minutes, it was literally a first take. It was the intro, the verse, the pre-chorus, and the chorus. It was there. Not the lyrics, of course, not the details, but the chords, the melody, everything was there. I recorded it on my phone, went back to watch the football game, and then went to the studio, to this room here, and started to work on the song and arranged the whole thing overnight. You can hear pretty much that version with some of the later vocals on the limited edition of the new album. Bring On the Night 80s version. It's called 80s version because it still has a drum computer, and the guitars I even played on a keyboard, because I'm not a good guitar player. I can play bass but not guitar. So I played the guitars on a keyboard, and there's keyboards all over the place. So we called it 80s version, but it's really only the demo version. Now the song was finished. I played it to Bob on tour last summer, 2024, and he listened to it, and I said, "Yeah, Toby, I get what you mean." By that time, the lyrics were already finished. After the Wacken weekend, we went to the studio in Hamburg and we recorded it, and sitting next to Bob while the thing was coming to life. And Bob had tears in his eyes, and I had tears in my eyes. I was concealing them under my glasses. I mean, we were not weeping, but it was a very emotional moment because we all know what the song is about. We all know whom the song's dedicated to. And Bob did such a wonderful song. It's a tribute to Magnum. It sounds like a classic Magnum song within the gown of an Avantasia song. I mean, it's still Avantasia, but it is a tribute to Magnum, very obviously one. Yeah, when those moments happen, I don't want to say that's the reason why I'm doing it. I mean, there's many reasons to be doing this. I'm also doing this because I can't do anything else. I'm a very lousy plumber and a very lousy bricklayer or whatever. So, or accountant, even lousier. I think that's one of the most precious moments, or those are the moments, one of the reasons, or some of the reasons why I'm doing it, to hear the whole thing come together, and to be next to Bob Catley, and all of a sudden I have to pinch myself and say, this is really happening. Bob Catley singing this song and filling it with life. And I think people can feel the soul in it, in the result. I mean, you can feel there's some very, very, I mean, it's not shallow, it's very deep as far as I think.
The fact that Avantasia exists as a live band gives you something that many fans would like to experience, which is sharing a routine with artists who are influences. In your case, names like Kiske, Jeff Tate, Bobby Catley, and many others. What has it been like to learn about so many things alongside legends who are now your friends?
I call them legends because people like Michael Kiske, like Jeff Tate, I mean, they have been very influential to a whole genre of music over decades, and a generation of singers who do this. Ah, they've always and I raise my head and stare into the eyes of a stranger, and these kinds of things. I mean, Jeff kind of invented that. I mean, of course, he took over from Rob Halford and maybe Bruce Dickinson a little bit, but of course he took it to a level that was out of this world. They are legends, but I mean, we're all human beings. You know, when we're fighting over the last scrambled egg at breakfast in a hotel, you know, we're all human beings. You don't see there's no legend bonus, you know, it's just, you know, survival of the fittest. It's my egg. No, that's my egg. No, seriously, kidding. He's not a nobody behaves like a legend. I think you can't behave like a legend. It's just that quality is legendary, and it's just, for me, it's great to be out on the road. And I mean, I've worked with so many great people. I've had so many great experiences. It's always great when you work with people who are very good at what they do. If you don't wear blinkers, you really have to look left and right and see there are so many people that are better than you, and you shouldn't be ashamed, or you shouldn't worry, and you shouldn't quit because of that. You should just be thankful for being able to witness it and learn from it. I had an experience, I think it was 2007. We were on tour with Aerosmith, with Ed Guy. We were allowed to do everything. We were allowed to go on stage and watch the show from the side of the stage. Where there were no restrictions. You can go everywhere. They didn't have to be afraid of this little support band stealing the show, because they were just out of this world and we were just who we were. Going on before Steven Tyler, and then have Steven Tyler wipe the floor with your performance within 30 seconds, make everybody forget that there has been a support act at all. That was a very, very demeaning. I mean, you were made being modest again, because you were reminded of that you are not the center of the universe, and that there are people who are much, much better at what they do. And Steven Tyler is the king of entertainment. I've never seen anything like that, not before, not afterwards. He didn't need fireworks. He didn't need an elevator. He didn't need a drum riser that would come up from out of nowhere and turn him upside down. No, he just needed a microphone stand and a song like Love in an Elevator, and he had 15,000 people at the palm of his hands. And nobody cared about that stupid opening act that we were anymore. So experiences like that, going on, I remember 2010, we had an experience. We were touring with Avantasia, and I was on stage, and I had managed to get Michael Kiske and Kai Hansen to go on stage with me. First time for Michael in South America. First time those two were together on stage again in Japan in, I think, probably 20 something years. That was something. And all of a sudden I was there in the middle of the stage. And I remember, I think it was in Brazil when I was on stage, and there was Michael Kiske here, and there was Kai Hansen there, and we were singing Shelter from the Rain. And I thought, the only thing that is highly disturbing for me is the fact that this is not Eagle Fly Free, and the fact that you are in the middle. You should get back and let those two do their thing and play Eagle Fly Free, and then I can die happy. So I'm thankful for having all these moments, and I'm thankful for, going on stage with Eric Martin. I mean, hey, Eric Martin, he's the monster soul singer. He's got a quality that I dream of. You learn a lot. I mean, the way Eric Martin sings a song like Dying for Angel, completely different to Klaus Meine. And you can learn from both. They add something completely different to the song. And when you absorb that, you learn something. And I think if I wouldn't have that experience, I would not be the best singer in the world now. Why are you laughing?
When Eddie Guy released Theater of Salvation, you stopped playing bass for the band. But one of the changes that happened when Avantasia released The Scarecrow was that you returned to the instrument. And since then, you've recorded all bass on each new release. Although keyboards and vocals are fundamental parts on your development as a musician, what role does bass play in your career?
I like the instrument. I learned the instrument. When we started Edguy, I was just a keyboard player. Now we didn't have a bass player, so I had to buy a bass and started to play. I liked it. It was coming close to a guitar and you could play it without necessarily knowing about all those different strings and the notes. It was boom, 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 boom. But very soon into it, I really started to like the instrument. I never considered myself to be a bass player. I was never. I mean, of course, I tried to see what is Sting doing, what is Gene Simmons doing, what is Markus Großkopf, and of course Steve Harris, all of a sudden playing with a ring finger too, and with things. I was always a pick player, but I like, I liked how it goes. Like we covered "Can I Play with Madness" in early Edguy days, and also "A Fear of the Dark," and I think other Maiden songs probably as well. At some point, I thought it was getting in the way of being a good frontman. Of course, people like Gene Simmons and Sting will prove me wrong, and Kip Winger, but I couldn't do it. I just wanted to run around, and I think it was at the same time as Timo Tolkki said, you should get rid of that bass guitar. You should run around and be a frontman and entertain the audience. And I thought, yeah, I agree. And at the same time, Hansi Kirsch dropped the bass guitar.
Mhm.
And so I said, like, okay, if it's good for Hansi, if Timo tells me, I will try without a bass guitar. Of course, it was difficult because you all of a sudden you have a fifth member in the band and you have to pay a fifth member in the band. So what was good for Eggy was not good for the wallet of us. But since we didn't make any money at all anyway back then, it didn't make a difference. We just knew theoretically, if we make money, we're going to make less money now. But but Eggy is a very, very good bass player. Amazing bass player, I have to say. He's a real, real good musician. Much better than me. And I have to say, I didn't really miss dropping the bass or miss the bass after I abandoned it or dropped it. And when we were together writing songs again, Sasha, I mean, I was writing the songs, but when we arranged them together again on working what I thought would be a solo record at first, The Scarecrow.
Mhm.
First, I thought it was a solo record. Then, after a while, I think it was probably 2 songs into the production or the writing process. I knew, okay, this could be Avantasia because The Scarecrow was, I think, the first or second song we had. And I thought that sounds so epic. This could be Avantasia. It was Sasha and me, and he had a guitar, I had a bass, and we were arranging the stuff together. There was a piano. We were sitting in this little studio arranging the whole thing. So it was just like, who's going to play bass? Well, I can do it. I mean, let's. And whenever I cannot play something, which happens quite often, then I will play it very, very straight, and either Sasha is going to fix it or he's going to take the bass guitar and going to re-record it. So I'm not very proud of my bass playing. I some of the stuff I think I do is quite okay and quite good, but when it comes to these real crazy figures, I can't play that. I can go like dun 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 dun. I can do this, but I can't do those Billy Sheehan, Ingrid Malmsteen. I can't do it. I can say, okay, Sasha, I have an idea. We could do it like this, and then I play it on the keyboard and give him the notes and say maybe that. And for example, Unleash the Kraken. I couldn't play all these things. I played those figures. I gave him a basic idea of what the bass does. Then I gave him some of those figures, and then I said, do something with it. And he came up with all these notes and played it, recorded it along with the guitar. He played it on bass and on guitar, and he kind of wrapped his bass playing around his guitar, or the other way around. I wasn't there himself. I cannot do that, and I don't want to take credit for it. It's not. No, I don't. I think bass players are strange people anyway.
The Here Be Dragons tour is coming up soon, and I'm still impressed by your live vocals, as you recorded some of these songs when you were in your early 20s. Playing this kind of metal is physically demanding, and you've been singing this type of music for over 30 years. How have you felt the passing of the years in terms of your voice and performance in a live show?
I was at a time where I had vocal problems, but that was because my whole body, my whole system was suffering. That was around the time, I would say 2008, 2010, 2011, 12. I was generally overworked. I was overworked and I did not even realize it myself. I was producing so much music and touring, and I did all the interviews for Edgar and Avantasia. I wrote all the albums for Edgar and Avantasia back to back. It was, I mean, imagine 2004, Hellfire Club, 2006, Rocket Ride, both with tours, both over 100 or nearly 100 shows. Then I did The Scarecrow in 2008. I did a world tour with the Scarecrow. I came home. We did an American tour with Edguy. And while we were on the American tour, we released the new album called Tinnitus Sanctus. By that time, I had lost my hearing. That's why I called the album Tinnitus Sanctus, because I wanted to face it with humor. I said, okay, it's stress, but I lost my hearing because of something I really enjoy. So it's a blessing. It's a Tinnitus Sanctus. So came home after that album, did 2 Avantasia albums at the same time. Did an Edgar live DVD, then an Edgar Age of the Joker, then another Avantasia record, then another Edgar record. It was just like everything, a world tour in between, and interviews. And my voice suffered, but just my whole body suffered. My mind suffered. I was a wreck, a nervous wreck, physically a wreck, and I wouldn't have been able to continue on like that. But I felt like I was perpetual mobile. I felt like I was remote controlled, not by my bandmates. I mean, of course, they were saying like, "Hey, Toby, it's about time you write a new album." but it was also my own fault because
Mm.
I wasn't clear enough about saying no. And I think around 2011 or something, I said even to Ed Guy and to everybody around, I said, I won't go on like that. It's not possible to do it. The music business is very difficult. I cannot be responsible for feeding 5 families and delivering like a maniac. I have to calm down a little bit. And I think my voice, like just like my body, just like my mind, got so much stronger compared to 10 years ago. I have literally no limitation in range. I can do all these high things without pressure anymore. The voice is there and I can I could do anything without effort. I know that sounded stupid now, but just to show you the voices, I feel good. But there was a time when I thought like by the time I hit 50, I'm gonna sound like a hoarse frog. But happy. Now don't cry, anybody. Don't cry. I am guilty myself. It's my own fault. I don't want you to cry. I'm a happy man now. But I had to learn to really tell people in my environment, my bandmates, my record label, my agency, I had to learn to tell them, no, look, no, I'm doing all this work. So I have the right to determine the pace myself. I will do only what I'm capable of. And I had to learn that when you're 30 and you lose your hearing, you say, well, I'm invincible. It's just one ear. Fortunately, it's not the penis. I have only one of those. I have 2 ears. So I'm sorry. Did I just say that? I'm sorry.
But yeah, I saw you last year. Like it was great, like amazing. And this show was here in Helsinki. In a few months, you'll be back. The city has played a very important role in your career, as the metal opera and early Edguy albums were produced here. When you think back on that time, what are your best memories of Finland?
It was just great. I just said to somebody else that I've spent more time. There's no city in the world I've spent more time than in Helsinki, apart from my hometown. So, the early days at Cafe Mastro, I think the first time I came to Finland in 97, I realized it's so great. The sun doesn't set. Everybody's out in the street. Everybody is shit-faced. Everybody vomits so happily everywhere. I thought, what a crazy bunch of people living in Finland. But I got to learn to love that country even even more. It was so great, all the years at Finvox Studio and Peter Maki and I when I was back this summer in 2024, I went out and I just walked across the streets and through the city, and I hopped into a taxi and I went down to the harbor, and I just wanted to inhale that atmosphere because I hadn't done that in quite a while. I just love it's an absolute beautiful rock and roll city, and I love the Finnish people, and it's I really love Helsinki, and I played a huge role. I mean, I've spent weeks there. Metal opera, Hellfire Club, Savage Poetry, Theater of Salvation, Mandrake, Vainglory Opera. It's like I've done so many albums up in Helsinki, and I bought so many records in
Mhm.
Helsinki, and it's just great memories. I remember I was living at Mape Olila's place, one of the friends of the Nightwish camp, when he played me the first Nightwish album. And it was a demo
Wow.
back then, and he played it to me. That was in 98. 98, I believe. He played it to me, and I thought, like, that's epic metal with operatic female vocals. Like, who needs that? Well, I'm a very intelligent person, but I don't know everything. Apparently, a lot of people need it. And I have to say, I really love Thomas' writing, and I love the band Nightwish. I mean, of course, everybody knows what has happened to Nightwish since then, but I've been there when they were starting out producing one of our albums back then. I've run into Thomas before they were, anywhere in at Finvox Studio. Great times at Finvox Studio and Cafe Mastro, and it was just great.
Avantasia's new album Here Be Dragons comes out on February 28th via Napalm Records, bringing the best of the symphonic metal. If you want to know more about upcoming live dates, news, and more, search for Avantasia Official on all social networks. Tobias, it was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. Would you like to leave a final message?
Absolutely. I enjoyed it absolutely, and thank you for your support. Thank you, Finland, and well, see you soon in Helsinki, Avantasia Live. Thank you for your support, and I hope you like the new album as much as I like producing it.